Hello everyone and welcome. You can't see him on camera, but hello. We are live on the developer Q&A. They're working on that. So yes, there we go. We got it. So you might notice we have a game overlay. We're actually going to be having a gameplay section for the stream today based on mining and smithing, and where mods Stu, Jack, and Tomb have gotten. Sorry. I've been so thrown off because while we've been waiting to go live, everyone's been going the sounds meter. Now, we go live beforehand to get you all in to get ready. We haven't accidentally gone live and accidentally revealed anything or anything like that. We just do it to get you guys in so we can get ready. Anyway, so without further ado, to kind of summarize something really quickly, and then we're going to jump right into gameplay because you can kind of see some mining stuff going on in the background there. So with this game update that came out this week, we have the Hall of Memories. You can check that out in-game. Level 70 to access. Came with 1 completionist and 1 MQC rec. If you haven't got that already, check the news post for more info or check the in-game. And apart from that, I'm going to kind of jump on things as they come up during this stream. But this is going to mainly be ran by Mod Jack alongside Mod Stu and Mod Tomb. And they're going to take you through what they've been up to in mining and smithing. So without further ado, guys, let's go over to you.
Hi everyone.
Hello.
Hello. So we get messages every so often saying this update's never going to come out because they've just forgotten about it again. I promise you, we are actually working on it.
It's true.
So we're doing a live stream just to show that there has actually been some progress. So we're going to show mining and smithing. Stu has taken over mining from Deg, and Tomb is still working on smithing.
Yeah.
So you want to start by doing some mining?
Yeah. So you pretty much click the rock and it does it for you. That's the great thing about the new mining system. It's a lot less intensive. So we're here at the Dark Animica site at the dig site, just outside of the empty throne room.
So Dark Animica is one of the new level 90 ores.
That's right, yeah. And this is the only source of Dark Animica on Gilnor. It's a very rare resource for particular lore reasons. It's more rare than the light Animica.
Yep.
But there's no competition with the new mining system. So although we've only got a few rocks here, they aren't ever going to deplete. We have an area where people will all come together and it's much more social. Every now and again, these rock opportunities happen, which will increase your progress towards getting a rock. It's shown on a progress bar, so it's very deterministic. And every now and again, you'll be getting your resources down here. I should emphasize that everything here is placeholder. That's why you've got these very bright red placeholder.
Yeah, they're not actually going to
rocks. Those don't look like the ores are. They're going to be outsourced. But this is just to give you an idea of how things are working mechanically.
I think you can tell the difference in the rocks because the metal is a different colour, but I think all the rocks we're going to show are red now.
Yeah, we're going to outsource to have some that look much nicer for the higher tiers. Yeah. So they're not just going to be simple recolors. That's what we have for the moment.
One of the things that people in the chat keep picking up on, so now we've changed the messaging of like critical swings and like rock opportunities and stuff like that. So they was what those hit splats were. So basically, randomly throughout mining, one of the benefits is you'll be able to basically a higher chance to critically strike the rock and higher chance for opportunities. And they're basically what those messages will pop up and display now.
So as you can see, there are a lot of mining sites in the game. I did see if we could try to thin them down, but players seemed rather keen on keeping a lot of them.
Yeah,
mechanically speaking, we need a lot less than we used to because, as I say, no competition. But we've endeavoured to retain most of them. Cut a few here and there where they were pretty superfluous, like there were a couple of random rocks at Port Khazard, for example. There was no need to have them there, so we got rid of those.
We were talking about, for flavour reasons, throwing a few rocks around where it made lore sense. Mm-hmm. We might throw individual rocks here and there, but they wouldn't be marked as mining sites.
Yeah. And then there are a couple of new ones here and there, like for example, we needed to have a source of phasmatite over near Port Phasmatis, so there's one over there. The Dark Animica one is new. And one handy thing is that these mining site icons now show you what resource is at that site. So instead of just saying mining site, it lists what their levels are, what items you get from them, and a label for that particular mining site.
Yeah, it's really. I've been using this today. It's been really useful. Yeah, it's great.
So good.
I've also marked the icon with a little arrow for when it's an interior. So, for example, the mining guild will show you what's inside the mining guild and list them all there. Say the Dwarven mine, for example. Say if you have to go inside, but you can go inside if you turn on the where are the dungeons? So there's the Dwarven mine, for example. There's all the sites in the mining guild, and then break it down for coal and tin and copper and iron and so forth.
We've been trying to make sure it's lore consistent with the placement. I think there are probably a few where it's a bit sketchy. Like there's a mithril site right outside Varrock, which is a bit odd, but it kind of really needs to be there for gameplay reasons.
Yeah, I mean, as a result of us adding in these resources at the higher tiers, it means the things that seem like they should be pretty rare are actually really, really common.
Yeah.
So like a mithril is now a level 30 resource. It's pretty much trashed here. So although that's the sort of thing, at least from Tolkien, you might associate with these strange, distant elven lands, that's just not how mechanically it works in RuneScape. So that's more the sort of thing that you might find with, say, light mica, for example. Do you want me to jump onto the other resources? Okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
So probably where people will be mining the light mica will be over in Kletscher. It's pretty close by to a lodestone. Just have to hop over one of these traps here.
Oh, they're upset about you calling mithril trash. Tolkien trash, that's what it is.
So I'm totally going to just butt in because I'm going to just go on my knees because I'm awkward like that.
Not a chair over if you like.
So, wilderness. Can you show us what we got in the wilderness?
Yeah,
accuracy?
sure. So at an earlier version, we did have some of Animica up in the very, very deep wilderness as well. But because we're trying to keep Animica very rare, and some people were concerned that it felt like they were being forced to go into the wilderness to get these resources. They aren't. There are sources elsewhere, but people were very concerned about that. So I've knocked it down to Bainite in the deep wilderness. And then there's some progressively lower resource levels as you progress down towards being outside of the wilderness, tier by tier.
So the idea being, obviously, the deeper into the wilderness you go, then obviously the better
higher
the
the
reward
tier.
as well.
Yeah,
cool.
but it's mostly using pre-existing sites just repurposed to these resources. So, but I mean, at minimum, you got Runite, which is free to play, and then you start going into the level 60 and above, going upwards in the deep worldy. So, if you're wanting to do the wilderness thing, you can. You have an alternate tier all the way up to there, other than the Animica. But realistically, who's going to do that?
Everything there's nothing that's wilderness exclusive.
Yeah, exactly.
So yeah, you can mine everything outside the wilderness too.
Yeah, so we got that one. The idea with the resources is that there's always meant to be somewhere that you can access them without any quest requirements or anything that's locked behind other things. If you wanted to just do a pure skilling, you could get all of these resources. So although people will probably wind up using Kletscher for ease of access, the primary one for light mica is down here in the southwest corner
By
of Helder
primary,
Hills.
you mean the one I can access without doing any quests?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
But not the most convenient necessarily.
Yeah. Now, there's lore reasons for why we have it down here, and also mechanical ones. When one's trying to have the high tier things, things that people don't usually go to that are pretty far away from lodestones, a bit of a trek to get to. Similarly, the primary source for Bane ore is up here in the northern polar region. Basically, all the Bane is running across. Where's the Bane? There, and there for the most part. A kind of a seam of Baneite running across the north area. And you had some lore.
Yeah,
built up there.
we've got some lore which I've shared with the players on the Mining and Smithing Discord about the Fremennik have a legend that there's a giant worm buried under the ground, and then they discovered these seams of ore that seem to follow the path of where it's lying. But no matter how deep they dig, they can't actually find a worm, so they're not sure whether it's real or not.
Yeah, it's very cool.
How many sites have we added to this so far?
So very few are actually new. Let me see. So the one over here.
Do you want to show them? You can drag your mining site document. So none of this information is new. Stu has posted several versions of this document up over the last few weeks. So this is version 7.
Yep.
0.7, yeah.
So there have been a couple of modifications here, but for the most part, it's what people saw in the last version that I sent out.
Yeah.
So the light mica down here is new. That phasmatite is new. The one just outside the empty throne room. But for the most part,
it would make more
repurposed.
with the empty throne room. It would make more lore sense to put it inside the empty throne room, but that's just a massive headache from a design and a technical point of view.
Yeah.
So we didn't.
But we still have
Didn't put it inside.
the Centiston crystals also inside there from when you're mining within the dig site. So so inside you have those as well, which I guess are thematically the same sort of resource, but perhaps not captioned quite the same way. Perhaps you might want to describe the
Narratively, it's the same stuff, but because the empty throne room has its own unique gameplay, we didn't want to destroy it.
right.
So we're just leaving it alone.
So do you want to describe the reasoning behind where Animika comes from, because players initially assumed that light Animika was Serene energy and Zeration.
So Animika is essentially a solidified form of divination energy. So it indicates that there was a massive release of god energy at some point in the past, which is most likely to have happened when a god died. That's what we're giggling about.
I'm going to go and link the mining maps.
Oh, yeah, good idea, yeah. So if you see an Animika site, it doesn't mean that Seren happened here. It means something happened with a god. It might have died or been injured, or perhaps some terrible magical disaster happened here. So we've dotted light Animika around for that purpose. Dark Animika is light Animika that's been corrupted by the Shadow Realm. So it's not necessarily associated with Zaros. But the purple crystals in the empty throne room we're saying are Dark Animika, and they're there because that was the site of Zaros' death. And there are no other places on Gilnor where there was god energy and also Shadow Realm energy at the same time.
And in fact, that Gilnor is the perfect world created by the elder gods of this universe means that, in fact, it's by necessity going to have large amounts comparatively of light Animika and virtually no dark because of that shift. Yeah. So, I think it's probably about as much for mining at the moment.
Yeah.
Or is
So we may as well go off to talk about smithing for a second. If you played the beta, you may remember that an ore bag got automatically added to your inventory. We've removed that based on feedback, and instead we've made that something you smith. So if we can go over to Tom on the other monitor.
Oh, hello.
Tom can show us making an ore bag. It's not complicated.
One of the problems with we had on the beta was that mining and smithing used Make-X, and that didn't really serve the purpose for what we needed it to do. So now we've completely changed the smithing interface, and you've got kind of you can select your metal type, what physical item you want to make, and then which upgrade of that item you want to make. And if you want to burialize that armor as well. Burializing is what decorating armor has now become.
So it destroys the armor in exchange for a much faster rate of XP.
Yes. And then if we...
So you can find the ore box, and then you just make it the same as any other smithing item.
Yeah. Same as any other smithing item. So you can so now you make the ore box from bronze, and then that singular ore box can contain copper and tin, and then for each tier you can upgrade the ore box with that ore box's appropriate metal. So now I can upgrade my ore box and get an iron ore box, or if steel, I could then upgrade it again to steel ore box, and so on, all the way to Elder Rune. And the ore box and all of the upgrades, because the upgrades are physical items on this by themselves, are all completely tradable. So if you kind of don't want to make all of it from scratch at the start, you can just jump in, buy all of them, or just we might make one item which is kind of an upgrade all straight from the start, so you don't have to kind of do this, but it allows for kind of as you're leveling mining and smithing, it kind of allows for those processes to kind of intertwine. So yeah, we have an
steel ore.
You know what I meant.
So can you show? Did you make an iron one?
I can make an iron one, and I can upgrade it. Yeah.
Did you just make it? Oh yeah, you did. That's a steel upgrade. That's fine.
Oh, maybe I've already made the iron one.
So the upgrades are permanent, but the box is an item that can be lost and dropped, but it only takes two bronze bars to make, so it's not very expensive.
Yeah.
At the moment, the way we've implemented it is that the upgrades permanently upgrade your character. So once you've used a steel upgrade, you can now put coal in the ore box. We could change that so that you have to remake the steel upgrade every time, or that you can just make a steel box straight away. But the moment what we've got seems like a good compromise of it being an item.
Yeah, it kind of
upgrade.
It thematically ties it into the game rather than just a kind of a tick box on your account.
So if you lose your ore box, so you've upgraded your ore box all the way to Elder Rune, you can store all the types of ore in it. And if you lose your ore box, you need to get a new ore box, but you don't need to get all the upgrades again.
Just wanted to point out that I've stopped that RuneScape command that people are typing. It doesn't do anything, but if you type it, then you're going to get timed out because we want actual discussion. I want these guys to see it. So, just so
it's hard to pick out the questions.
So yeah, if try not to do commands to relate to RuneScape because you'll just get at the end of the stream. So just stop because we want actual discussion. Just wanted to point that out. It's only fair for these guys as well.
So what stuff? Should I go
Can
through?
you give yourself some ore and put it in the ore box?
Oh, I can. That's really easy.
Let's do that. Oh, look at that! Right,
Yeah.
so it's really easy to use. You have to remember to bring your ore box with you. Then you just click it, and it pops
Yeah.
everything in. You hover over it; it'll show you what's inside it. It stores 100 of each ore, I think, by default. So on the beta, it's stored an amount, and all the different types of ore contributed to that capacity. So if you already had 50 iron, you couldn't fit as much coal in. Now it stores 100 of each ore, so you can put 100 iron ore and 100 coal ore. 100 coal.
Oh, should we talk about geodes as well? Or do you want to talk about geodes?
Yeah. Did you get any geodes while you were
Let's see.
mining?
Yes, I did get a couple. So it looks like
we switch back to mining?
Sorry, I'm stealing the mining thunder.
Yeah.
No worries. So I got a couple of geodes here. Looks like they stack, and when you open them up, it'll give you gems. So that's basically.
Sorry, Stu, can you move your backpack over a little bit? Sorry, we just can't see it properly. There you go, perfect. Because the camera's in the way.
Right.
Oh,
So the icon is just placeholder at the moment, but a geode is like a tiny stackable treasure chest that you get from mining, and it usually has a gem in it. I think the best kind you're incredibly unlikely to get. They're very rare, but they always have a really good prize in them. The drop table is nonsense at the moment because I wrote it to troll Deg and he just implemented it without questioning it. So it just has 500 fire runes in it at the moment. But so the idea is that it'll be so there's 3 tiers. Effectively, there's a free one, which is called sedimentary. There's a members one, which is called igneous, which has the members gems in it. Has a chance to drop the members gems. And then there's a really good one, which has a drop rate of like 1 in 1,000 or something, and has quite a good valuable reward in it. But we haven't finalised yet what the good valuable reward is because it probably shouldn't be 500 fire runes.
Right. Something also about these mining icons, if a resource gives you if a mining site gives you multiple types of resources, so for example gem rocks have a chance to roll several different types of gems, then it'll display them all for you there as well. Obviously gem rocks wouldn't give you geodes because they're already giving you gems as a base value, but there's the sort of features we can turn on and off as needed by different resources. So for example sandstone and granite has a chance to give you different sizes, so it lists those. Something else that I've also done is, where's Alcarid? I've split out the gem rocks into semi-precious and precious. That way you're not getting all of the low-tier things like red topaz and so forth. And it means that we can put a source of the low-tier gems in the free-to-play area. Because currently the only gem rocks are in Charlotte Village and Prifdinus, which isn't very good for free-to-play.
Is there a way you can filter the world map by type of rock?
At the moment, no. There's just one mining icon.
We were talking about ways to try and do that, but it would be either if we displayed that information, it would be incredibly busy, or if we tried to add in a filter, there would be a lot of filters. It's not a trivial problem.
Because one area could contain multiple types of resources,
Yeah.
indicating the stuff that's inside an interior, or things that could be on the surface. So it gets kind of complicated.
I think it's the sort of thing we'd be interested in improving in future. But as it is, what we've got is quite a large improvement, I think. Someone asked a question that I meant to answer, but I missed it.
One of the questions I saw was the asking about when the ore box becomes available. So initially, as soon as you log in, level 1 smithing, level 1 mining, you can use an ore box. You just have to obtain one. But then each upgrade requires you to be able to mine the relevant ore to go in it.
I don't think it does it?
Yes.
Does it? Oh, it shouldn't do. Wait, it should have
So
a
it's
smithing. It should have a smithing requirement to make, but it shouldn't have a mining requirement to use. Oh, we can do that.
Well, there we go.
Because I'm worried about people logging in on launch day and going, I don't want to bother making 20 different items. So someone can just sell them an all-in-one upgrade kit and they can just use it straight away, regardless of what their mining level is.
Yes.
So it's. I mean, before in the beta version, we were just giving it the whole thing away for free. So we've reworked it so it requires a little bit of effort, just because basically so it feels a bit more RuneScapey. You want to talk about the coal bag? Someone's asking about
what becomes of the coal bag?
Oh, so in the beta, we originally implemented a kind of a coal auto heater thing. which basically allows you to kind of use low heat smithing. So if you have the auto heater either in your inventory or in your pocket slot, it consumes coal from your hopper, and then when your heat runs out, it reheats for you up to your kind of low heat threshold. So you can kind of constantly just completely AFK smithing at a kind of a decent rate still. But we did also implement zero heat smithing. So if you completely just run out of, if you've got the auto heater of coal, but if you just completely run out of heat, you can just continuously smith, but at a much, much, much lower rate instead of just kind of abruptly stopping you while you're off to get your cup of tea.
You can now completely AFK smith. It's just incredibly slow.
Can I clarify, this is not a 120 skill as well with this, correct?
Yes,
correct.
It's not going to 120. Fire making does have a slight benefit now. Fire making increases your heat cap, I think.
Yes.
So if you're not familiar with the mechanics of the rework, you now have to heat. Smithing items take much longer to make now, which should make each individual item much more valuable. And you get the XP per hour is roughly the same. The XP per bar is similar, but each individual item takes a lot longer to make, and you have to keep reheating the item. And the hotter it is, the faster you make it, and the faster you get XP. And so when Tom's referring to zero heat smithing, he means the ability to keep smithing even though it's completely cooled down, which in the beta you couldn't do. It just stopped, and you had to go and reheat it. And now you'll just keep smithing until you AFK out.
Yes.
Will Sign of the Porters work on all the new ores?
They're not as useful because of the ore box.
Right.
So we're going to be looking at whether or not Signs of the Porter need changing or buffing. They may not, because they're still sort of useful for other purposes, but that's on our to-do list.
Just to clarify as well, I think we talked about this in previous streams, but ores on drop tables, are they going to be a thing with this update? Is the new ore going to be accessible via drop tables? Basically?
No, the plan is to not put any of the new ores and bars on drop tables, so
Cool.
Mining will be the only source of them.
Amazing. Okay, good. Might please a lot of skillers. What about portables? A little bit.
Oh.
Oh.
You've gone.
Don't know what that happened.
What happened there?
That is.
Don't know. Switch to him, would you?
Let's,
Can we switch to
switch to
smithing for now?
switch to a Montoom screen, shall we?
Portables are a tricky problem because, again, they're less useful because of the hopper. So the hopper is where you store your ore and bars, and you can smith and smelt directly from the hopper. The portable forge just loses a lot of its usefulness. So again, we're going to have to. We came up with a plan for it. We pitched it to the team. They weren't so keen on it. So we need to. It would still work. It just wouldn't be very useful. So we're going to have a look at whether or not we need to make it more useful.
So I remember back in November we had this huge discussion on stream, me, you, and Deg about Spring Cleaner. Can we have that little discussion again?
So we've now published a plan for Spring Cleaner, which seems to have gone down reasonably well.
Can you
the design.
let us know what that is, just in case we haven't seen it?
So the Spring Cleaner, let me try and make sure I remember it clearly. The Spring Cleaner has a new mode, two new modes, which will either, depending on what you choose, auto alch or auto disassemble. But the only things that it auto alchs and auto disassembles are new items we're going to be adding to drop tables. So all of the rune items and adamant items we're going to be removing from drop tables and replacing them with a new item that can only be alched or disassembled.
Nice.
And then the Spring Cleaner will auto alch or auto disassemble it.
Awesome. Okay.
So we think it is still, the Spring Cleaner will not be as profitable. There's no way around that. But we're trying to add additional use to it so that it is still worth having. It won't be like, the new one is obviously not as good as the old one, but the new one is still very much worth having. So that's what we're trying to accomplish.
If we look at time, easy to say that this is obviously it's not one I expect you to answer in full, but if you look at the time frame for mining and smithing, where are we at right now?
So if we haven't shipped by the end of the year, we're in trouble. Our deadline is essentially the next beta. So the problem, we'd like to do another beta now, so that we can get the actual world, the mining sites in the world. Because the previous beta we did was only on a test square.
Yeah.
The problem is if we ship this live now, it would just break and crash constantly because we haven't updated everything to work with the new systems yet. So you'll go do some quest, you'll click on some ore in a wall, and the game will just crash. So we have to fix all of that before we can go live with the beta. Because that's why it was restricted to the test square before, because then we could control what was there on the test square.
Whereas coming up to some obscure rock in a quest which has a specific script,
Exactly.
which doesn't have that.
Yeah,
break.
it could crash your account, could crash the world. We've got no idea until we've tested and fixed it. So that's where we're at now. So all of the you can see from the stream, apart from the artwork, all of the core mechanics are now in and working. But we now have a list of something like 100 things, some of which are very simple, some of which are very complicated. Like complicated would be, for example, the blast furnace, which is just not going to work at the moment. We're going to have to figure out what to do with.
What about, can we talk about the armor? I believe this is Stu screen.
Yeah.
Can we talk about the armor? I think it's the first time we've seen it in game of this.
Yeah, so this is Orichalcum Armor.
Yeah, get a little look at that.
So this is the level 60 smithable armor. So it's going to have slightly worse stat. Oh, at the moment it's actually slightly better than Dragon, and we might need to buff Dragon. Although I mean, Dragon doesn't really matter either. So this is tank armor, level 60 tank armor. So it's not going to be blowing anyone away for combat, but it looks pretty good. So you can keepsake it.
So you can keepsake all the armors as well.
Yeah.
Awesome. That's a good thing to clear up. Do you see any quest requirements changing for mining in some quests as a result of this, or even smithing?
I don't intend to. We were talking about this, weren't we? We haven't double checked them all yet. In the case,
We don't know of any cases where we would need to modify the quest to work with the new system.
because very early on we had a policy of sort of like, oh, you need to mine Runite in this quest, so therefore it's mining 85. But I think we actually changed almost all of those, didn't we? I think already.
so, yeah.
So there isn't anything where logically the mining requirement would change, because the mining requirements tend to be kind of arbitrary rather than lining up with the mining skill. So no, we're not. If we find any, we'll consider changing them, but we're not intending to at the moment.
So, I remember us talking about a login check in regards to conversion of Rune into money. Is that correct? Or something like that? A way of making sure that if you have a stock of runes, we try and find a average value or something like that. Refresh?
So there are three problems. The same applies to lower tiers, but Rune is the most serious one. So Rune ore is changing from a 80-90 tier, a best material to a very middling material, which is going to lower its value.
50, correct?
Yeah, 50.
50, yeah.
So there's a couple of things we're trying to deal with that. So Elder Rune, which is the new tier 90 material, is going to require a rune bar to make. So smelting Elder Rune requires one light Animica ore, one dark Animica ore, and one rune bar. There's no way to predict exactly what GE prices are going to look like, but my hope is that keeps the price of rune bars high enough,
Because it's a material for 90.
because it's a material for tier 90, that we don't need to do anything artificial to rune bars to maintain their value. Oh, that's a good shot.
That's a full camera shot.
Yeah, I like it.
Now you can see how I'm working this, guys. Anyway.
Yeah. Rune ore, therefore, should also keep its value because obviously it's needed to make rune bars. Rune equipment it wasn't that useful before, but it did have a fairly high alch value.
Yeah.
That alch value will probably go down. We haven't done the exact balancing on that, but because it's such a low tier material now to make, the very high alch values of things like the plate bodies and the halberds will probably have to come down. In that case, what we can do is replace the item. So if you currently have a plate body, we could replace it in your bank with a plate body +1, which would have a twice the alch value, or a +2, which would have 4 times the alch
It's got a
value.
lot of numbers, in a sense.
So we need to just sit down with the spreadsheet and work out what everything needs to be replaced with, so that when you log in, you've got your rune plate body +2s that can still be alched for about the same as what they could be before. They're actually more useful now because you can turn a rune plate body can now be turned into smithing XP using these systems.
So are we? I don't know if do we have any other armor sets in game?
We
right now?
don't. Bernie is doing Necronium at the moment.
Yeah, Mod Clumsy's working on the Necronium armor set at the moment.
I know everyone's mod name.
Although one thing with the Orichalcum set is it does have an upgraded version.
Oh, yeah,
and the
yeah.
upgraded version does look slightly different. And all the basically from Orichalcum and above, all of the new armor sets will have a visually different. Basically 2 visually different sets, and there'll be the kind of the low tier base ones, and then the upgraded and burialized ones. And we do have we have an awesome warhammer as well, which is I think the coolest weapon ever.
That looks really good.
It's amazing, isn't it? Look at that.
That looks so cool.
Should we talk about the workshop?
We are
Are you
workshop.
ready?
Yeah.
Alright, let's do it, and then we'll jump on a few more questions after. All yours too.
So, as some of you may have noticed, this is now our white box for, well, our kind of placeholder for the Artisan's Workshop. And we've basically removed burial armor from how it is in RuneScape at the moment. And the burial armor we've rethemed from decorating in the beta.
Decorating is destroying a max upgrade item to get more XP.
Yeah, I could have just said that.
That's fine.
That can now only happen in the Artisan's Workshop, in the kind of the back bit of the Artisan's Workshop, on these burial anvils and burial forges. I've currently got an in-progress item.
So thematically, you're bringing the best gear available and then dedicating it to the Dwarven ancestors.
Yes.
I really like this interface, I have to say.
It's really, yeah, I've been using it
obviously
for the last couple of days and it's great.
You
Yeah.
had the basic make X, right? But it didn't encompass.
It
everything
didn't.
you
It was
wanted
really
to say.
annoying. You had to click through several different windows and yeah. No, it's really usable now.
We've also ceremonial swordsmithing. We haven't removed. We've kept that in. So when you're smithing in the Artisan's Workshop, there'll be a small chance, a much higher chance if you're smithing higher level stuff, to be given ceremonial plans. And then once you're given those plans, you can then any of the anvils work on a ceremonial sword, and then just gives you I think much more XP than it used to give you, because we currently worked it out to you'd get about 1 or 2 every hour. I think it was that.
Yeah. So it's just kind of an optional D&D.
Yeah, and we'll obviously be removing that from the daily challenges, so you don't have to kind of pray to RNG for your daily challenge.
There were a couple of interesting questions that went by there. Someone was saying, "Is this going to make Torva useless?" So the armor that you just smith all the way up to Elder Rune at tier 90 is tank armor, so it doesn't compete with Torva.
But in essence, because it's tier 90, it will compete with Acto, right?
But we're adding. Well, Acto has its own.
But obviously, it has the iron bonus.
Yeah. The tier 90 Masterwork armor, which you can find if you go look through the design documents, is power armor, but it's also extremely expensive. So we don't and requires. Oh, sorry, no, it doesn't require Torva to make, but the tier 92 upgraded version of it does require Torva to make. Tetsu is a problem, yes. We're still considering what, if anything, we need to do about it. Elder Rune kind of makes Tetsu redundant, so we're going to need to figure out if we need to buff Tetsu or just accept it or put in some other use for what the ability to make Tetsu. Do we need to give that a benefit?
Just putting in the pickaxes and tool belt in the chat now.
So one of the other things that we've added with the Artisan's Workshop, actually, to kind of, for another reason to kind of encourage everyone to smith here and this be the kind of the core smithing place, is a thing called the Illuminati Injector, which basically you activate and it buffs everyone in the Artisan's Workshop for about 5 minutes, and you get basically +1 progress per strike, but that's before the heat's applied. So it's actually, if you're at high heat, it's a much better benefit, and if you're at low heat, it's a much worse benefit.
It's about 10%.
Yeah, well,
it's a 10% increase in both how quickly you make items and how much XP you get per hour. Lots and lots of people asking about Blu-ray, or possibly one guy is just asking about Blu-ray a lot.
Yeah, I've endeavoured to put it on the screen. I'm not sure if the camera's pointing at the time.
We are not doing anything special with Blu-ray. We are not adding new Blu-ray items.
Yeah, but it still exists. You get the Blu-ray from the same location.
Yeah, I mean, Blu-ray will be updated to work with the new systems, but it's not going to be any more useful.
Someone keeps asking about crystallizing mining. I made it mechanically work earlier. I don't know.
Yes, we're going to need to look at the balancing of crystallize. Yeah.
So how do you see it working as a mechanic then? In the current new mining system, how will crystallize work?
The problem is it's just too good at the moment. Whether we just say, oh, well, it's already too good, there's nothing we can do about it, or we try to rebalance it to make it slightly less good.
With all due respect to woodcutting, you could say the same about crystallized woodcutting.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. Right? But we're not reworking woodcutting, so I'm not going to deal with that problem as well.
Just that approach anyway.
Trial hour, so harmonized ore will not be particularly useful. because all rocks don't deplete now.
Yeah, basically, rocks are already harmonized.
Yes, exactly, yeah.
Through the Rockopportunity mechanic, so there's nothing really special about harmonizing.
So I did some investigation into what trial hour and harm means to people, and I think the key point is that a community has formed around looking for harmonized rocks. So if we... Sorry, I have to preface all this by saying we need to get this update out. So if it turns out it's going to take a month to fix trial hour, then we will consider not fixing trial hour. But optimistically, we should be able to put something in that means that the community can still persist, but it probably won't be harmonized ore. It could be, well, we were suggesting it would be too strong, right? But like it could be like Rockopportunities are much more frequent during trial hour, but only on a particular world or something like that. So that's what we're going to try and focus on is there's a benefit. So there's a benefit to being in Prif during trial hour, and we'd like to implement it in a way that allows the community to still exist.
Right, some quick questions coming your way, Jack.
Yep.
Corrupted ore?
Probably just still work the same way it does at the moment.
Yeah, at the moment, I was showing it earlier, hopefully I was on screen at the time, but the Seren Stones work with the new mining system mechanic. It gives you a stack of corrupted ore there. I've got some from earlier.
We will need to check the balancing, but in theory it just stays as it is.
Yeah, and I've disabled the things like the Rockopportunities and the Geodes that would discourage you from being AFK. So the system supports that, and then we can tune the numbers accordingly.
Seren Stones, how do they change?
They're going to stay the same. Again, we have to check the balancing. Cool. I was planning to replace Seren Stones with Light Anomica on second and third look. I now don't think we should do that. That also means the double or no XP pickaxe. No, double XP no ore pickaxe from the beta is not going to be in. It's far too good. Cool. So if you have fond memories of that pickaxe,
you say the double XP no ore pickaxe not going to be in, but we have that in game already with Dwarven Warhammer. Is that going to be used?
That's not double, is it?
It's not droppable, but you can get it from Treasure Hunter.
Yeah, well, so we'll need to rebalance it.
Okay, cool. Pickaxes. Can you smith up to level 90 pickaxes with the level 90 stuff?
Yes.
And they can be augmented?
The smithable ones can't be augmented.
Okay.
So I put a design out for this last week, the week before. So there are smithable pickaxes, and there are pickaxes you get via other method, like Incando, Crystal, Inferno Ads, and Dragon.
Highest augmented is still Crystal then?
So the order. So after some player feedback, I've rearranged them. So it's now Inferno Ads doesn't do anything special.
Yep.
So Dragon is 60, Crystal is 70, Incando is 80, and then a new pickaxe called Pick of Earth and Song, I think, which is going to combine Crystal and Incando together. So you bring a Crystal pickaxe, an Incando pickaxe, and a Blast Fusion hammer. Combine them all together, and now you've got the best pickaxe in the game. And that is a level 90 pickaxe, which can be augmented.
And that can go into Tool World?
It can't. If it's not augmented, it can go in the Tool World. If it is augmented, it can't. So level 90 augmented pickaxe is the best pickaxe in the game. So if you want to prepare for that, get your Blast Fusion hammer, your Incando, your Crystal, and have them ready for launch.
There you go. In regards to perks, do we see any other perks changing in regards to skilling on mining?
I think the current mining perks are quite like there's none that do anything particularly unusual.
I'm talking about furnace, which gets rid of the ore but gives you more XP. That's okay.
We'll have to check the balancing. Like with all of this, we say like it works technically. This is what Stu's been mostly going through and making sure they work technically. But we do need to go in and revisit the balancing to make sure they're not screwing everything up. The difficult question with perks is, do we add new ones? Because the current ones aren't that interesting. Because mostly it's there, so you can level inventory.
I can see refined coming back a little bit. No, not refined. Is it refined? The one that keeps the resource going for longer? I can see that being pretty useful with this update now.
The one that stops it from depleting?
Yes.
That doesn't do anything by default in the new system.
But can we make it do something, for example?
We'd have to redesign it.
Okay, cool.
There's a bunch of old rewards that literally don't function in the new system because they do something that doesn't exist anymore.
120, I mentioned earlier, these are not going to 120.
Not 120.
Why is that, out of curiosity?
Because they would have to be 120 combat first. Because mining and smithing can't. Mining produces ore, which goes to smithing, which makes weapons and armor.
Sorry, just to clarify, 120 combat, you mean 120 skills? Because obviously.
Yes, sorry, yes. 120 combat skills. 120 without 120 attack and defense. 120 smithing doesn't have anything to do.
Fair enough.
Somebody asked in the chat earlier about the mining guild. The mining guild has a level 60 requirement, so we're making its niche. It's the primary place to get orichalcite. There are deliberately very few sources of this or otherwise, so that it has some reason to go there. It's also got some runite, so there's a reason to come back to it when you're doing your Elder Rune later on. And
Yeah, it's a very convenient source of runite.
Yeah. I should emphasize that none of the mapping here is final. I've gone through and substituted rocks for rocks, so there's far more rocks here than we could ever possibly need, and we're going to thin it down accordingly.
So in regards to ores and bars, not stackable, is that correct?
Uh,
Will ores and bars be stackable, basically?
They're not stackable, but you can put ores in the ore box, which
Yep.
carries 100 of them, and you can then dump them in the hopper. So smelting is now much easier than it was, because you smelt to your inventory, but then you just put it all straight back in the hopper again.
Is the ore box tool belt? Or is it just an
No,
object?
at the moment you have to carry it in your inventory, because you can put all the ore in it. Inventory space isn't really that big a problem.
Yeah, that's fair.
So the hopper is kind of like an inventory for ores and bars.
Yeah, it's like
that
an
you
ore
can
and bar
access
bank.
anywhere in the world. You can access from any furnace, forge, or anvil in the world.
Oh yes, we were talking about because we're getting really confused. The artists in particular get really confused when we say the rework requires a new object called a forge, which is where you heat up your items, which is not the same thing as a furnace. So a furnace is only used for smelting bars. We're talking about renaming the furnace to smelter.
Yeah,
So that everyone can tell the difference. Yeah, because at the moment, forge and furnace kind of mean very similar things. There's no clear reason why one of them would be the other.
Can you see ore box upgrades on the tool belt at all?
The ore box upgrades are permanent unlocks, so you consume you get the object and you destroy it, and it permanently unlocks your character, so they can now store that type of metal in the ore box.
Do you see any set effects coming for these armors at all?
We're not planning on any. We might conceivably have to add one to Masterwork or upgraded Masterwork if we just can't get it to be good enough, but at the moment we don't see any need for that. The smithable ones wouldn't be competitive even with set effects, so we're not looking at that.
Oh man, we're rattling off questions. This is great.
Oh, and tentatively, another one I saw, the smithable armors won't be degradable, but we undecided about the Masterwork and upgraded Masterwork yet.
Those ones definitely will degrade. We haven't got the Combat Council to agree to the smithable ones not degrading.
Okay, I thought we...
No,
sure,
they haven't agreed to it. I'm hoping they
So
will.
your proposal is tier 90 smithable doesn't degrade.
Doesn't degrade because it's not competitive with power armor anyway.
Right.
It would be an interesting niche for it.
Also, the Elder Rune armor won't be of tier 90 value?
No,
tier
that's
90
true. No,
stats?
it only has tier 80 stats. Yes.
Gotcha.
Yes.
But you will be able to
But
slowly
it's upgradable
upgrade
to
those.
85, which is
Yeah.
the same as Tetsu, I think.
I want to talk about two edge cases in mining, if this is okay. Soft clay mining during FL hour, so you can mine soft clay indefinitely during FL hour, basically. Is that changing at all?
Probably needs to be changed for the same reason as Tri-Hour. Like, it's just not a good benefit anymore because soft clay... I mean, we haven't looked at the balancing of soft clay. I'm assuming that soft clay will work the same as all other mining rocks.
Yeah, at the
You've
moment it
implemented
has
it
the
that
same
way, haven't you?
stats as regular clay. It just gives you a soft clay resource output.
Whether it... The problem is, we can have the benefits to work, it just doesn't do anything, so we might need to change it.
Alea crablets from Ark Islands, how do they work?
Need balancing.
Need balancing.
They work. Did you get them working?
I still need to look at that one.
Technically, they're really awkward.
The system is designed so that it supports NPCs, but because it's doing some very special things the NPCs do, where it puts these timer bars over they've put like this progress bar on that it has to be an NPC. Having a system that is essentially entity agnostic, where NPCs and locks work, but there's a command in there that only NPCs work, means that it fails. So I need to find some way to work around that functionality. Maybe I have to put the progress bar on the player, but he's already got progress bars for core mining. So it's one I need to still look at.
Yeah.
So at the moment, it's still using its own exception from the regular mining system.
Awesome.
People are still talking. Someone's saying that we're not. The thing about Torva is we're not nerfing Torva relative to where it is now. So if you don't think that Malevolent makes Torva redundant, then we are not adding anything that makes Torva redundant. If you think that Malevolent already made Torva redundant, then we're not changing anything there either. We're adding a whole lot of tank armor, and that isn't going to do anything to Torva.
Orichalcum is the new tier 60. Dracolith is now an
catalyst.
ore for tier 60.
It's the
but
coal
isn't the
for
actual
that
bar.
tier. Yeah.
How do Juju potions work? Mining digital
I have a tentative plan for this. So there's an awkward law problem with metal dragons, because if metal dragons don't drop bars anymore, that's kind of weird.
Yep.
I pitched dragon scales as a mechanic. No one liked it.
Right.
So I renamed that to stone spirits, I think, or metal spirits, or spirits, like steel spirit. No, not steel spirit. Coal spirit, copper spirit, etc. So this is an item that you carry in your inventory that stacks, that whenever you mine, it consumes one and gives you another of the ore every time you get an ore. So they're basically like double ore charges. And so notionally, what I would do with the Juju potions is have them have a chance to generate spirits. As long as the Juju potion is active, it has a chance to generate spirits. That's kind of a completely different function for it. But again, the problem is that the current function of the Juju potion is a bit redundant given the ore box. So it's coming up with new ways for all of these things to function.
Do you ever see a tentative date coming out soon for the beta at all?
It's going to be towards the end of the year. We want it out as fast as we can, but we've got to get all this stuff fixed. We can't launch the beta until we know that the server's not going to crash because everything's working.
The beta should also be almost completely feature complete, so everyone will just be able to jump in, and it will almost be a mirror of the live game at that point.
That, in theory, yeah. In theory, there's no difference between the beta and what we would actually launch. Obviously, there'll be a million things we've
I'm sure something will break somewhere. Let's talk about that.
Overload. Oh, yeah. Yes, we've got a plan. So, long ago, we established that we were going to add an untradeable benefit to the smithing skill. And we have been debating with the Combat Council what that's going to be ever since. We have a pitch. So I'll pitch the benefit now, and I'm really interested to know what you think about it. I'm looking at the Twitch chat rather than the camera. So the idea that we have is this is a consumable item which is relatively cheap to make that requires high-level smithing. It will probably require something like 90, but then get better up to 99. So 99 will give you the best benefit. And this is a consumable item that gives you a Thorns effect, meaning whenever anything hits you, you damage it back. Probably only in melee range, and probably only if you're wearing melee armor, because it's supposed to be a melee benefit. Exactly how we do those restrictions, I'm not sure. Does that sound appealing? Does that sound like something that you would consider worth leveling the smithing skill to get? Yeah.
Our worry is that it won't be kind of a very exciting benefit.
Yeah.
And kind of because obviously locked behind kind of high 90 smithing is a big requirement.
The majority like it.
Yeah, sounds like a positive response. Okay, well I'll do up a full design for that, and I'll put it up online in the same way as the other designs. The reason it would only be melee is because it's specifically supposed to be a benefit for melee. It's not supposed to be a general combat buff to all characters. It's supposed to be a melee buff. Because that leaves room for rune crafting to do a similar thing for magic and so on.
Yeah, or whatever makes magic staves.
99 smithing is a reasonably harsh requirement. I mean, I know it's not like that big a deal now, but there are more people without 99 smithing than with 99 smithing, believe it or not.
So we talked about smithing pickaxes, smithing hammers and hatchets. Is that going to be a thing with this as well?
We're not going to add any new hatchets because so part of the reason we're reworking this skill is it creates room for more mining picks. The woodcutting skill doesn't really have room for new hatchets.
Yeah.
So if woodcutting ever gets reworked, which may or may not happen, then yes, we can go back and add smithable hatchets, but we're not planning on adding any new
What about
ones.
hammers?
We're not planning on adding hammers at the moment. It's something we might look into for a future update. But at the moment, they're not obviously missing. We will have to figure out what the crystal hammer does. But we're not planning to add tiered metal hammers at the moment.
But we've tentatively built kind of the mining and smithing core mechanics in mind to kind of have big reward spaces that we can then kind of add
so future
large
updates
into.
can add more content if we need it. That's a cute idea. Making it look better with Tetsu. Like, I don't know whether that makes sense from a balance point of view, but it's a nice idea.
So just to clarify, augmented crystal hammers still will work with this, right?
Yes.
Cool.
We'll need to refigure what the benefit is.
Obviously the benefit right now is save a bar, so...
Yeah, I think that probably doesn't make sense in the new system, but we'll have to look at the balancing. But in particular, saving a bar when you're spending 32 bars is not as good as saving a bar when you're making 5.
The ore rocks are slightly being redesigned. The ones that are currently in game are just placeholder ones. That's why they're bright red at the moment.
They're not going to look like that in life.
Yeah, the stats aren't final also. That there's a lot of duplications there, so don't panic about what the XP rates that was coming from Seren Stones and that sort of thing.
Is there anything else we want to demo? Is there anything else on our list?
So.
There was a big concern. So when we were discussing the mining sites, so in live, because ores deplete, because rocks deplete, a mining site with 5 rocks is better than a mining site with 1 rock. One lone rune rock isn't really farmable. So finding a new rune rock or a resource dungeon with rune rocks in it is actually quite useful. In the new system, that's not true, but I've been playtesting for the last few days, and actually the mining sites have very different character because of the way rock opportunities work. So I was mining in the Berthorpe mine, which is a load of thin tunnels, and what I found was that if I followed the rock opportunities around the tunnels, I ended up just in different places. And then when I went to the mining guild, which just has a dense mass of rocks, there are sort of 20 places a rock opportunity could spawn, and it just felt very different, and it actually had quite an interesting effect on my performance. So I think there probably will be better and worse mining sites that gradually people figure out. I can't tell you right now what's optimal, but people will figure out, I think, over time where the best places to mine particular ores are. Right now, because of the way the mechanics work, the best possible mining site is 2 identical rocks, 1 square apart from each other. So we're going to try and make sure there aren't any mining sites like that.
What becomes of shooting stars, out of curiosity?
It just needs rebalancing.
Cool. What's the redstone name? Someone's asked there.
Oh, it's just placeholder.
Yeah,
That's just
Yeah.
placeholder. That's copper and tin and clay that we're looking at there. It's just that they're red at the moment.
Yeah, the artists are going to need to come through and do variants of these for the different terrain, recoloring the rock to suit the environment they're in. So that's just to indicate that they're a particular tier for now.
Tell us more about Runite and what top miners are going to be able to do. I don't really understand that question.
Someone said, why not have metal dragons die and be mineable like living rock caverns?
Because it's just not very useful. Because if I can get an infinite supply of Runite from any Runite rock, then why would I bother going and farming a Rune Dragon? The key with a PVM drop is the PVMer needs to be able to just pick it up and take it with them, which is why we've got this concept of stone spirits.
I presume dungeoneering, mining, smithing just gets...
That's not going to change.
So that would remain as is?
Because, so when they implemented dungeoneering, they entirely separated and duplicated the code.
Yeah.
So dungeoneering is running completely... In theory, it should be updated to work with the new mechanics with the progress bars and stuff. We're not going to stress to do that before launch, maybe ever, because it's not a very important priority. It's not like mining and smithing is a big deal in dungeoneering anyway. So...
Also, adding infinite ore in dungeoneering might
that's true,
change the balancing of dungeoneering slightly.
True. Very true.
Somebody
Especially
asked
at low
about obsidian weapons and armor. I don't believe they're going to be affected at all because they come from PVM drops. They don't use mining. The obsidian slabs, which are completely unrelated, will use the new mining system for the wall mining, but they're not functionally there, and it still serves the same purpose within the weapon tiering, that it's level whatever it is, 60, but it boosts to 80 in Ginsar, whatever.
Can you have multiple ore boxes? Yes, but they don't really do anything. They all look at the same inventory, so you can have as many as you want, but they'll all have the same contents, so there's no point taking more than one with you.
Somebody keeps spamming about what effect this is going to have on mining in the Ark. So are a layer crablet's going to have better XP than level 90?
We need to figure out what the niche is. So Seren Stones are both very high XP and AFK.
Mm-hmm.
But it's particularly on launch, Light and Dark Animica will be quite valuable. So giving up that money, I think, and particularly with the ore box, keeping your ore isn't actually that big a problem anymore. So the role of Seren Stones is effectively high XP, AFK, but you don't get any money from it. Mm-hmm. We will need to find a role for crablets that makes sense within the new balance of the skill, and we don't have one yet.
What about pure essence mining?
Probably not going to change. Probably won't be as good.
It uses the new mining system, so... but obviously, it won't spawn rock opportunities because you have your big rocks too far away from each other. But mechanically, it'll use this system.
I think we were reading a leveling guide, and at the moment, there's some bug, I think, that means that Essence in free-to-play mining, Essence mining is the best way to level mining in free-to-play.
Yeah, that'll be fixed.
I don't know what the bug is. But yes, that won't be true anymore.
One thing I've noticed from the chat, a lot of people are asking about the tool belt. So currently, when the update comes out, I think all pickaxes will be able to be put on and taken off of the tool belt.
Except bronze, you can take them off the tool belt.
Yeah, with the exception of if they're augmented. If they're augmented, you can't put them on the tool belt.
Yes. So an unaugmented special pickaxe, like crystal, can be put on the tool belt and taken off again. If your crystal pickaxe is already augmented, you can upgrade it into the Pick of Earth and Song. I don't know whether it will persist with it. I don't know whether it will keep its augmentation. I don't know whether we can implement that.
Right. This is an awkward question. If I have a level 20 pickaxe, so I'm benefiting from the level 20 boost from invention. The invention updated in September. We bring out the new pickaxes. Can I convert my IMXP level onto my new augmented pickaxe?
I literally just answered that question.
Was that? I wasn't sure if that was covered.
I don't know.
Oh, right.
I
wasn't sure.
I don't even know if I should say hopefully, because I don't know whether we want that or not.
Yeah, it was something. Something we
precedent?
just have to discuss.
Do we have a precedent for upgrading an already?
Elite Dungeons allow you to go from tier 90 to tier 92 and keep level. And, so sorry, I have to drop that on you.
Okay,
So
then fair enough. If there is a precedent, then we should try to copy that precedent. In which case, I hope so.
So if I've got an ore bag and I take it, box, and I go into wilderness and I get PvP'd, do I drop my ores?
I hadn't thought about that question.
Okay.
I think, as currently, currently implemented, you drop money based off how many, based off your how many ores are in your thing, and then the ores just get removed. I think. If we do end up dropping it, you drop at least a cert version of them.
Cool. Okay, that's good. Arrows and bolts, can you make them with these new smithing tiers?
We're not planning to add new arrows. If that's the question.
Okay.
So currently, the smithing interface, I haven't added all the kind of miscellaneous smithing like nails, arrowheads, and stuff like that. But that will all be in. But not for the new tiers, like new stuff when we're not doing.
We're getting to that point, I think. I was going to say it completely slipped my mind. I'll check it. Sorry.
The lava flow mine is something we will just have to look at. We haven't got there yet. It's on the big list.
It may or may not use the new mining system because it's so unusual in its functionality.
Dwarven Army Axe I didn't cover in the pickaxe document. It's not really that important. It will probably keep its existing functionality, but not do anything clever. There was another one, wasn't there?
Clarify, coal bag. Is that completely...
So coal bag is going.
I implemented this today.
You talked about this, didn't you?
So
we'll refund you your tokens for the coal bag, because the coal bag is kind of redundant because the ore box replaces it. So we'll refund you your tokens, and then we're adding in this new that Tom talked about earlier, this coal auto heater coal consuming item.
That one I missed.
So we're not just going to swap the coal bag for the auto heater.
Wish I had your DG tokens. Jeez. What the hell?
Oh yeah, you maxed them.
One.
You maxed them, didn't you, so that you could, so that we could find out what happened if you tried to refund it.
So basically, the auto heater is it consumes coal from your hopper, and then once your heat runs to 0, it consumes the coal and reheats your smithing in progress object to its lowest threshold of heat.
Gem back staying?
Tentatively, yes.
Yes, because gems don't go in the ore bag.
Got it. Divine locations. How are they going to work? Because obviously we have divine rune rocks. And
they're not that useful. So we'll need in the new system. They're just not that useful. So we'll need to evaluate. Do they need buffing? Is it okay that they're just not that good?
Yeah.
We'll have to decide that.
Cool.
Someone was saying, given that this has been in development for 6 years, how has all this stuff not occurred to you? It hasn't been in active development for 6 years. It was proposed about 6 years ago. It's been in active development only for about how long now? 8 months, something like that. Sitting down and solving, it might take us literally half a day to fix one of these seemingly simple problems. Because minimum time to fix one of these is someone comes up with an idea. Several other people need to. It's not exactly sign off on it, but just check to see if it's a good idea. Then someone has to go in and implement it. We can't fix anything in less than half a day, and some of them could take longer than that, depending on how complicated it is. So the overload benefit has gone back and forth with people again and again because we wanted to make it something. No, it can't be that for balance reasons. Okay, how about this? No, it can't be that. We have whole plans for how we're going to improve a certain thing, and turns out to be either technically impossible, or balance-wise it doesn't make sense, or someone forgot some crucial thing, or what we propose duplicates something else that exists somewhere else.
It can be a lot like a game of Jenga because you're taking things out from the very foundation that 10, 15 years of content we've built on top of, and ensuring the whole thing doesn't fall over.
Superheat form. What becomes of superheat? Or superheating, I should say. Sorry.
Probably. We were talking about changing it to work with smithing instead. So rather than smelting, it could, because smithing now requires heat. Perhaps changing it to work with that. It could do both. We're not sure.
Yeah, it's something that we just have to. It was on the list.
I'm tempted. So at the moment, you don't need coal, do you? It smelts it for you without using coal. Is that right? Yeah. So that benefit itself isn't that big a deal now because coal is only used for steel and mithril. You might logically expect it to extend to all secondaries, but then that would be ridiculously strong because that would, rather than saving you coal, that would be saving you a tier 90 material instead. So we probably wouldn't make it do that.
What about coal for miscellanea, dare I ask?
Probably not changing, and the reason that we put the auto heater in to use coal is so that coal still has some sort of use.
So we're coming up to an hour. We've literally showcased a lot and also spent an hour answering questions.
Yeah.
Is that everything?
Great. I'll say we'll probably answer questions for about 1 or 2 more minutes, and we'll get ready to wrap
Yeah, I
up.
think we covered everything, didn't we?
Yeah.
Have you guys covered everything?
Yeah, we've covered everything
I think
on our
so,
list.
yeah.
Alright, we'll take questions for about a minute or 2, guys. So
Someone's asking, can I tune my Bane pickaxe? So what I want to do, and this probably won't actually happen, is make you be able to tune the Bane pickaxe to hate Bane ore, so that you can mine Bane ore with it more effectively. So it's a Bane pickaxe. That's what I want to do.
Maybe.
It's a good idea, right? It's a good idea, right?
So currently you can't smith spears and halberds, and in the update you won't be able to. So the stuff that you can't currently, like physical items regardless of tier that you can't currently smith, we're not then allowing you to smith. But with the new tiers, we're not just using swords and two-handed swords as the actual weapons. For example, with Orichalcum, we've got a warhammer, offhand warhammer, and two-handed maul as the kind of that tier's weapon.
Yeah.
What about Goldsmith Gauntlets?
Oh, you've got a nice plan. You want that to? Do you want to explain?
You can do it.
At the moment, when you smelt, it puts it in your inventory. The reason that we did it that way, so you smelt from the hopper, which is like your shared mining and smithing bank. When you smelt the bar goes in your inventory. The reason we implemented it that way is because originally it went straight back in the hopper, and it felt really wrong because you couldn't see any progress happening. So we made it go. Are you doing it now? Yeah. So you can see it going into the.
Can we
get left
bring
monitor?
That screen if possible? There you go. Perfect.
Right. So when you smelt, the bars go in your inventory, and then you just right-click, deposit all, and it puts them all back in the hopper again. And we did that so you can see the progress you're making. The plan for the goldsmithing gauntlets is that we make them smelting gauntlets, and that would mean that you would just smelt straight back into the hopper again. And you were talking about increasing the make X to 60.
Yeah, so tentatively you could then, with the goldsmithing gauntlets, we might potentially rename them to smelting gauntlets or something similar. And then you'd just be allowed to kind of make X smelt 60 at once and just super
And it would just go straight back in the hopper.
We did have another plan as well that was gold themed, and I don't remember what it was.
Oh, that was just being able to put gold and silver in the ore bag. So by default, you can't put gold and silver in the ore bag, and we're going to try and find somewhere
in the hopper.
to put.
You can put them in the hopper, not the ore bag.
So
it shouldn't be in either by default.
Okay.
So as the goldsmith gauntlets do that, skill K perk for smithing, I presume, will be updated accordingly.
It'll need to be changed. Yeah.
Cool. I think apart from that, is there anything you guys want to touch upon, or I think that's a lot we've covered.
I don't think so.
Yeah, I think that's everything.
Will the Wild Gothic Sleeps requirement be removed from buying the hammer to create the top tier pick? No. So I've been quite determined that you can level mining and smithing without completing any quests. You can get both to 99. That doesn't mean you'll be able to get the absolute best in slot equipment. If it's a problem that there's no augmentable tier 90 pick, we might need to add another one somewhere. Someone's saying, stop dancing around the questions that keeps getting asked. I don't know which question.
We've answered so much. It's
a bit of a blur.
So the same person again is saying, how will the C92 upgrade for melee arm be implemented?
Since it won't be part of Elite Dungeons. Okay, so there's a design document. You can read about this. If we can get a link to it.
Yeah, let me go get it.
You make it out of mining and smithing materials. That makes tier 90 armor. You then combine that with PVM materials, some Torva and some Malevolent, and that makes tier 92 armor.
Yes, you potentially break your Malevolent and Torva down into essence, and then use them to smith the tier 92 armor.
Ring of Forging will still work. It still won't be that useful.
Ring of soft clay work or ring of clay? I can't remember what it's called.
Yeah.
Awesome.
I mean, everything. Everything needs to be updated to work with the new systems. The only stuff that might have to change is because it's kind of redundant in the new system.
Can I just double check? Is it upgraded Masterwork armor, the doc that you're referring to?
Yes, although you can just link them the summary,
Yeah.
and that'll take them to all the documentation.
There you go.
Coal and gold deposits. So concentrated coal and gold we're planning to keep, even though there isn't really any use for them because
Concentrated
mechanically-
coal's still okay with the auto heater in theory.
Yeah, we need to rebalance the tiers for them
Yeah.
because the resource is obviously not as useful as that level. Someone keeps them cannonballs. They'll be
They just
cast
won't
the same way
change.
as usual.
Yeah. Oh,
I mean,
cannonballs work
the question
as well.
of where they fit into the economy,
Can we go on?
the whole smithing economy is going to completely change. So what's profitable to make is going to change. You know, how do I level smithing without spending money is going to change.
So you're making some cannonballs now, right?
Potentially,
Potentially.
if it works.
We haven't
Oh, it
tested
does
this
work.
yet. Hey, made some cannonballs.
All right. Should we leave it there? Or is there
I
anything-
think we might as well call it.
All right. One last thing I want to ask actually before we end it. Varrock armor. How's that work?
That refunds a bar, doesn't it? We'll just need to
I
change
think it
it.
speeds up as well. It would need to look
Yeah,
at
yeah,
it.
of course.
I think Varrock Armor needs revising.
Cool. Okay. That has been, what, an hour and 5 minutes? Hello, everyone.
Not bad.
Hour and 5 minutes of answering basically as much as we can on mining and smithing where possible. So first of all, a massive thank you to Mod Stu, Mod Tomb, and Mod Jack for taking the time for us to show where they have gone and also answering so many questions on so many topics where possible. If you've missed any of the stream, you can watch it back, but I do expect there to be a TLDW as per usual. We'll try to summarize everything that has happened for this stream, but someone asked, how was your wedding? It was incredible, thank you. But yeah, it's, apart from that, I think that is everything. We've tried to answer everything we can in about an hour. We could probably talk about this for all day if we wanted to.
Do ask us on Discord.
Yeah, so I was going to say, so on discord.gg/rs, we have an official channel for mining and smithing where these three wonderful people hang out and try to engage with you where possible. And also they're on Twitter at JagXJack, at JagXTomb, and at JagXStew. If you have any questions for them directly, then you can tweet them as well, and they will try their best to get back to you where possible. But apart from that, that brings us to the end of the stream. When this stream ends, I'll run upstairs, I'll go fire out RuneScape for everyone to make sure you get your reward for watching. So first of all, thank you for watching, and hopefully you've all enjoyed it. So yes, thank you so much for joining us. Apart from that, I'm going to say we're done here, so take care, and have a good one.